Biggest winners and losers from Week 10. Next on Fantasy Football Today in 5. Welcome to FFT in 5. I'm Chris Towers here with Adam Azer. Make sure you listen to the full episode of Fantasy Football Today for an in-depth breakdown of everything you need to know from Sunday's action. Adam and I are just going to hit some of the key points. And the first one we're going to hit, the only, I think, really important injury for Week 11 in particular looking ahead is Alexander Mattison left with a possible concussion. I didn't see, was he officially diagnosed with a concussion or was he just checked for it and we didn't see like the official diagnosis?
That I'm not sure with.
Okay.
I saw concussion. But that could have been premature.
Yeah, and when he left the game, he had 8 carries, and Ty Chandler had 8 carries, but Madison was the number one back. He had 30 snaps to Chandler's 17, was running more routes, but Chandler kind of stepped into that Cam Akers role. So Akers being gone meant that Madison wasn't just the clear dominant number one, and it could be a situation where Ty Chandler, probably the top waiver wire target, at least one of them heading into Week 11, right?
Yeah, I think Noah Brown will be up there as well. But certainly, yeah, I think like you said, if Cam Akers was someone that you needed to roster, then Ty Chandler certainly is. And, maybe he could just do a better job than Alexander Mattison. Madison hasn't been running the ball very well. So I think he's a big priority, Ty Chandler.
All right, let's move on to the biggest winners and losers. And I'm going to go with, I've been really impressed with Sam Howell the past few weeks. The last 3 weeks, he leads the NFL in dropbacks with 153. He's only been sacked 7 times. It's a 4.6% rate, which would be the 6th lowest among all quarterbacks for the season. First 7 games, he was at 12.7%. So he's done a much better job. And I think that the touchdown to Brian Robinson, you can look at it and say, oh, well, that's kind of a fluke. Brian Robinson had a 51-yard touchdown. I think Howell threw it 4 yards down the field. But if you watch that play, the Seahawks corner blitzes, they don't really pick it up. He's not like free running at Howell, but he has to step up in the pocket. And I feel like a month ago, he might have just fallen back into the corner. Instead, this time he steps up in the pocket, scrambles, keeps his eye up, throws like a sidearm pass off angle to Brian Robinson, who's got tons of daylight. I thought it was a really impressive play from Sam Howell, the flashes have always been really impressive. The highs from this guy, he makes a couple of throws every week that are like, that was an incredibly ballsy throw that he just made. And now he seems to be cutting out like the 10% dumbest plays that we were getting early on in the season. And I think he's been really impressive. I think it's a really good sign for this offense. And I think he might be a top 12 QB the rest of the way if he can keep this up. I'm also looking at, you were going to say Bijan Robinson, so I don't want to steal that one from you, right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, 22, it worked. We knew.
We peer pressured Arthur Smith.
Exactly. 9 weeks of badgering Arthur Smith for him to finally cave. 22 carries, a 5-yard touchdown run. Not his first touchdown run of the season, but maybe his first short yardage touchdown run of the season. So that was really encouraging. That's exactly what we wanted to see. Yes, we want to see more targets. But if he gets treated like this as a number one running back, could be a huge second half. They're going into a bye, could be a huge second half for him. And Kyler Murray, you're right about Sam Howell. And the Commanders really seem to like Sam Howell too. They like his future. It's very bright. His matchup, he stunk against the Giants first time around. The Giants are so beat up right now. So he's got a good matchup next week. But I would take Kyler Murray over Sam Howell rest of the season.
That's fair.
Yeah, big win for him. Nearly had 2 touchdowns. You had, sort of. He overthrew a wide open Marquise Brown in the end zone, just barely overthrew him. And then you had the Michael Wilson play, which was originally ruled a touchdown.
I didn't see where he was down.
All right, maybe I'm wrong. I thought he was down. Everybody else saying he wasn't. Clayton Tune comes in and gets the tush push. But yeah, look, did you see him run? Holy cow. That guy tore his ACL. Looks great. So I'm really excited that Kyler Murray is back. I think it gives us basically a must-start quarterback going forward.
Yeah, I think absolutely he's in that top 12 discussion moving forward. I'll also just really quickly, Jahmyr Gibbs, him and David Montgomery basically swapped drives, but I think the biggest thing is that he got 4 green zone touches to Montgomery's 2, but I think the biggest thing is just that when the Lions got there on, quote unquote, Gibbs's drives, they didn't just take Montgomery away, which is what they would have done before. So I think that's a really good sign. I like both of them as top 20 running backs the rest of the way, but it might be a situation where Gibbs is a top 12 running back. Montgomery's more like a top 20 guy. Let's talk about the biggest losers. Who's your biggest loser from this week?
Tony Pollard is basically this week where Bijan Robinson, where Bijan Robinson was a week ago. And it's like, okay, it's time to put up or shut up. But this really was that game for both of them. And Bijan came through, I guess. So they were basically at the same spot a week ago. And now Bijan came through, got the work we wanted. Pollard's never going to get the work because every game the Cowboys are in is a blowout. But still, it's just the same problem. We can't ignore it anymore. He just doesn't look like the same player that he was. I don't know what the answer is. I keep talking about the ankle surgery. That's so long ago now. But I don't know what the answer is for Pollard, why he's not explosive, but he just isn't. So he's going to have to score touchdowns. He never does. He almost did, but he hasn't scored since week 1. So he is no longer a slam dunk. I mean, I think you're probably going to start him, but he's not a number 1 runner. I would not buy low on him unless it's really low. But I'd rather have both Lions running backs than Tony Pollard. I think people would probably disagree with that, but that's where I'm at.
I think I'd rather have Gibbs than Pollard. I think if I could get Pollard for Montgomery, I think I would still do that. But yeah, it's he's currently averaging 0.1 point per game more than Ezekiel Elliott did last year in PPR scoring.
Wow.
And like the thing for me is just if Elliott was getting the work that Pollard's getting now, I feel like he would have been even better than he was last season. And so it's like, I don't really buy that Tony Pollard's a worse player than 2022 Ezekiel Elliott, but he hasn't been any good. Like his advanced metrics are all really bad. They all look like Ezekiel Elliott. He kind of turned into 2022 Ezekiel Elliott overnight. It's very concerning. I still have to have faith that he'll figure it out, but yeah, I mean, we're talking about a guy averaging 3.9 yards per carry. He hasn't been efficient in the passing game, hasn't been breaking, any long runs, but also has been really ineffective near the goal line, only 2 touchdowns in week 1. I think there will be better luck in terms of the touchdowns moving forward, but that's kind of the only reason you out Tony Pollard right now. It's a really, really discouraging situation for him. And Christian Watson, another game. I think the Packers threw the ball 41 times, and he had, 3 catches in this one. I think he did have 6 targets, which was the second. Or he had 7 targets to lead the team, but only 2 catches for 23 yards. This is not a good offense. Jordan Love's not throwing the ball well down the field. When he is, it's not to Christian Watson. Watson's dad is pulling a Odell Beckham Sr. and complaining on Twitter about Christian Watson getting unfair treatment from the fans and the media, and the vibes are not great with Christian Watson. So I had hope for him. I made a couple of buy low trades when he was coming back from the hamstring injury. I think he's droppable at this point. Not a player that you have to have on your roster, which is frustrating given the upside he showed last season. And remember, it wasn't until about this time last season when he started doing well, so I don't want to write him off entirely, but if you need to make an ad on waivers this week, Christian Watson's droppable. That's going to do it for FFT and 5. We'll see you tomorrow.